Hi, this is George Newbern, and you are listening to the All-Star Superfan Podcast.
We talk Superman, and we know what's happening. We talk Superman, and we cover everything.
Hello guys, Rob here again from All Star Superfan. Just letting you know at the top of the episode that I goofed in a big way with my audio on this episode. We recorded it a little while ago and I was having technical difficulties across a couple of different recording sessions. You might have spotted it in an episode of Always Hold On to Smallville a month or so back, and also some of the episodes we've done. That is all now a thing of the past. I've invested in new equipment. That will not happen again. Apologies, but just letting you know.
If you're wondering why I sound like this
instead of sounding like this, that is why. But I can promise you that this is an incredible episode. It's one of our best. We finally, once and for all, had my oft-mentioned best friend Parker on the show, and there is a very interesting Superman-related reason as to how we met and how we have stayed friends for the decades since. So strap yourselves in. This is a great one, and happy Superman Day.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, more fashionable than a Paris runway model. Welcome back to All Star Superfan Podcast, the show that celebrates Superman in all his many forms, from the comic book pages to the silver screen, and yes, even the occasional mullet phase. I'm Alan Burke, lifelong Superman fan, collector and co-host of this very podcast, and as always I am joined by my trusted partner in truth, justice and highly opinionated debates about superhero fashion, the one and only Mr. Rob O'Connor. How are you, Rob?
The listeners can't hear, but I'm doing blue steel right now because it's the man of blue steel is what we're here to do tonight.
So today we're tackling one of the most important questions in Superman history. Who wore it best? That's right, we'll be ranking and comparing the majority of live-action Superman suits, from the classic Christopher Reeve look to the many modern takes on the Man of Steel's wardrobe. Which one makes us believe a man can fly, and which one makes us believe a man should have hired a better tailor? Strap in, folks, it's time to talk capes, colours and questionable collar choices. But first, Rob, will you introduce our guest tonight, please?
Yes, so this is the oft-mentioned, it's his very first appearance on the show, the oft-mentioned, never-before-heard Mr. Parker Johnston, my co-host from the Dick Tracy Minute podcast, which is kind of on indefinite hiatus, but it will be back eventually. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how we know each other, Parker?
Sure, we actually met back in the day. Back in 2004 on a comic book forum dedicated to, of course, Lee Falk's The Phantom, the famous... No, I'm kidding. Yeah. We love The Phantom, but we met on the Superman homepage. The original great 2000s forum, which I think one subject discussed above all else was the quality of the upcoming Superman costume from Superman Returns.
Yes,
or rather,
that's right.
Lack of quality. But we'll save that for... later in the talk.
It's so funny. Like, I said this to you. Sorry to interrupt. I said this to you a few years ago. I heard Brandon Routh on one of the podcasts. It was either The Nerdist or it was Michael Rosenbaum's podcast or something. And he specifically said that back when Superman Returns was being made, he would go on these forums, these Superman forums, and see people complaining, like viscerally complaining about the suit and about how he looked in the suit and all this. And I was like, I bet one of those was Parker.
Yeah, the odds are I was very vocal about that back in the day. So I feel bad for any bad self-esteem issues I gave to Brandon Routh. He was terrific in the film. The suit, I'm not a fan of.
Well, you get to be vocal about it again tonight, all these years later, so that's great.
Tell Alan, because Alan doesn't know this. Alan thought you were one of my friends from Ireland.
So me and Rob talk daily and have done for about 3.5, maybe 4 years now. And he talked about you so often, he talks about Parker so often, that I legitimately thought up until like 3 days ago that Parker was Rob's best friend in Dublin, who he grew up with. I had no idea.
Yeah, Rob and I originally met on that forum in 2004 after 4 years of online friendship. But like originally, the thing is, it was an anonymous forum. everyone had like just like avatars and usernames and stuff. And so we only gradually gleaned over the course of like a couple years that we were the same age. We're born a few months apart. And that forum was filled with like we were 15 at the time, and that forum was filled with people in their like 30s, 40s, 50s, and all that. So the handful of teenagers on there like gradually started to bond, and then we added each other on MSN and started talking every day at the time. Yeah, then after a few years of talking like constantly on MSN, and we got pretty close there. I think because like as teens, it was great to talk to somebody from a completely different continent about everything that was going on locally, because it was like, you know, you talk to your local friends about stuff. It's like there's drama and it's everyone's involved. But so yeah, it was great. It was not unlike talking to some sort of mysterious, you know, voice in a crystal from someplace far away. And then at the end of high school, the summer after we both graduated, Rob and his friends in Ireland were going touring around. Your tour touring sounds like you were David Silver going on the road with his hip hop
No,
band.
nobody knows who David Silver is. You see, this is the level of like David Silver is Brian Austin Green, previous episode on Metallo. It's his character from Beverly Hills 90210. Parker is the only other person in the world who I can talk to about Beverly Hills 90210.
Okay, so tell me, Parker. So, say in your home life in Canada, did you have friends with similar interests, like, you know, comic books, superheroes, that kind of thing, and or was that kind of another thing that connected you and Rob specifically?
At the time, I'd say all that stuff was kind of at an all-time low for a while. For Superman specifically, I had a couple friends. Smallville was at its height at the time, so I had a couple friends who were into that. And then when Batman, like when Batman Begins was coming out, like there was a huge kind of reinterest in that, and a lot of my friends here started to get like hardcore into Batman and into the animated series again and all that. I should also say that on the Superman homepage, Rob and I were kind of the two biggest Batman fans, so that was another thing we kind of bonded over. There were some super fanatics on that site who like hated Batman, and most people loved him, but just not as much as Superman or whatever. But yeah, then after high school, we took the risk of actually meeting in person. Rob's the first like internet friend that I met in real life. And indeed got on an airplane for the first time and flew to Dublin from Toronto. And yeah, but like we talked on the webcam a bunch of times there, and I was friends with all his friends on Facebook. So the odds that he was some mysterious stranger, some ghost in the machine, were low by that point. And then yeah.
Excellent. And tell me just a little bit about your background in regards to Superman as a character himself. Was it the Christopher Reeve films? Was it the Lois and Clark series, Smallville, all of the above, the comics?
Sure, yeah. So with me, it kind of all came back to my dad. My dad was a lifelong Superman fanatic, and so like grew up the George Reeves show and handmade like grandmother made Superman costumes and all that. He was a fanatic. My dad described many years later that on the day that Superman the movie came out in 1978, he was so excited he had a migraine. And yeah, so like from literally like earliest memories for me. Watching the Superman movies, like it was like the way like a devout Catholic maybe teaches their kids about like religion and the Bible and all that. And I'm not even really being hyperbolic there. It just the world revolved around Superman and Batman and Spider-Man and all that from my earliest memories. My dad was a newsroom reporter and all that, like partially inspired by that whole thing. So yeah, I was born into it, and yeah, like the Reeve films were the big ones for me at first, but like to the point where I remember when Lois and Clark came out when I was 4 years old, it was already like, whoa, like a new thing. How is it going to be different from the Reeve films? Because I already like knew them so well at that age, at least two and four. Because one and three I found too scary as a little kid to watch. I only got into them later when I was around 12 years old. I finally was brave enough to go back to the terror of the earthquake scenes in one and everything in three.
Yeah, well, three is just generational trauma around the world for anybody born in the 80s or 90s, really.
I'm sure this has maybe come up before. I have friends who know nothing about Superman, who have no memory of any of the films, anything like that, that have plucked the robot scene from Superman 3 out of thin air as like the childhood movie scene that traumatized, and they don't even know what it's from. And I've had to, be the red-faced exploding guy on the meme being like, I have so much to say about that. And yeah.
There was specifically two films that used to kind of freak me out. Superman 3 was one, and then actually Ghostbusters 2, which if you rewatch it, there is quite dark elements in it. But there's a scene where what the guy in the painting, what's his name? Ego, where Ego's assistant
Vigo with a V.
Vigo,
the Carpathian.
Where Vigo's assistant goes to visit Sigourney Weaver during a blackout, and then he leaves, and his eyes of turn on these lights for... Oh, man, that scared the crap out of me. And where do you stand with fashion?
So the funny thing is that in high school, when I first knew Rob, this is actually worth talking about. Rob was like Rob was a really well-dressed teenager. Yeah, like Rob dressed like a teenager on a TV show. Rob wore like layers, denim, all that stuff. Rob had his leather armbands and denim jackets and stuff and plaid shirts and all that. Like he like, I don't mean he dressed fancy. I mean he dressed in like the type of ensemble you would see characters wear on Smallville or whatever. And for whatever reason, as a teen, I was very much like fashion is pointless. I am going to wear the same sloppy black hoodie and green cargos and sneakers every single day. And I regret that as an adult. I'm like actually really kind of fashion conscious and like have like different jackets for every scenario and all of that. So yeah, but it's like basically as a teen, I only really cared about superhero costumes, and civilian wear was boring and pointless to me. To my detriment as a teen, to my social kind of detriment as a teen. So yeah.
And Rob, good to hear that you're such a fashionista at such a young age.
Yeah, sorry. No, I'm very flattered and slightly bewildered by Parker's comments about my fashion sense. He's probably the first person. I mean, I remember trying, but I don't remember being particularly successful in my attempts, to be honest. But I have to tell this one other story, and then I promise we'll get to the topic at hand on. So there was a very funny incident with the American Border Patrol in Buffalo, like on the border between. It was actually we were at Niagara Falls. We did a whole Superman thing at Niagara Falls. Me and Parker like acted out the scene of the boy being pushed into the Niagara Falls and all that. And then afterwards, Parker's late great father decided he wanted to get some Kerrygold butter of all things. You know Kerrygold butter, Alan?
I'm vaguely familiar with it, yeah, but in the States. In the States.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Kerrygold is just like premium salted butter that is made here in Ireland, in County Kerry. But Parker's dad really wanted to get Kerrygold, and they don't sell it in Canada. So we crossed the border at Niagara Falls. And for a Canadian crossing the border, it's not that, well, it's less of a big deal, I guess, Parker, is it?
Yeah, it wasn't a big deal at the time. Like we had our passports. It was pretty smooth. This was 2010, so yeah.
You know, for the Irish people in the car, it was a way bigger deal, and they brought us into like the room, and they started questioning us, and they were like asking, "How do you know this guy Parker? Like, what's it?" And I basically explained that we met on the internet on a Superman forum. I was wearing a Superman T-shirt, and I had that moment of if anyone remembers that Family Guy skit where they're trying to ask, someone is questioning Peter and they ask him what his name is, and he goes P. He sees a P and he says P, and then he sees someone crying and he says tear, and then he sees a griffin fly by and he says Griffin, Peter Griffin. I was just imagining the Border Patrol police like not buying my story when I said that I met him, because I was wearing a Superman T-shirt. We were in the Department of Homeland Security, home, and there was all these pages in front of her. So it was like Superman home page. I was waiting for her to say a likely story, but anyway, long story short, we got into the United States and we managed to buy some Kerrygold. Anyway, suffice to say, me and Parker have met up many times over the years, and during COVID, we were like on Zoom or Discord every single day, watching movies, playing games. It was like you lived next door, so it was we've been friends for 20 years now, and we'll be friends for many, many more to come. And it just goes to show that not everyone you meet on the internet is out to kill you or out to sell you get rich quick schemes.
Excellent. So will we get into the topic of tonight's discussion, guys?
Let's do it.
So we are going to rank and rate pretty much, I'm sure we may have forgotten one. Someone will definitely contact us and say, oh, you omitted this one or that one or whatever. But we're going to try to rate and rank every live action Superman costume. So in total, there's roughly 31, we think. Some weren't actually used in films or TV or on screen. They're maybe not concept suits, but suits that would have been used if films had gone ahead and all that kind of thing. So there's 31 in total. We're going to go through them one by one in a chronological order.
We should give a little bit of context as well, in that, like, me and Alan had a lot of over and back about what should and shouldn't make the list. And Alan was like, we can't have like 50 costumes on this list, Rob. It's ridiculous. The episode would go on all night. Everyone would be bored. So what I eventually agreed to was it has to have been featured in an official DC Comics live action production of some kind. Or event. So a live action event or a live action thing, basically, you know. So basically, the things that are off the cards are, like the costume test photos from Superman Mortal or Justice League Mortal, and a lot of the Superman Lives ones. But one of them did survive this list for a very particular reason. But most of the Superman Lives ones didn't make the list because it's not a real movie. It doesn't exist. So even though there's photographic evidence of it, we decided to strike them from the list. Much as it broke my heart.
Did we? Or are they still on the list?
Well, that remains to be seen. There's one particular one that is still on the list for very specific reasons.
Okay.
But
so
we'll get into it.
We'll go through them. We're going to rank them. So I'm going to get you guys to rank them as we're going through them. 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5. And every number has a category, which I took great pride in naming. So 5 out of 5 is Absolute Superman. Rob, comic book you have been raving about online recently, Absolute Superman.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
If you give me a 5 out of 5, it goes into the Absolute Superman category. 4 out of 5 is House of L. Egan's, which I was very proud that I came up with. That tickled me no end. 3 out of 5 is Truth, Justice, and Serviceable Style. 2 out of 5 is Mile-Mannered Threads. And 1 out of 5 is Kryptonite Couture. So I'll keep a tally as we're going through. I'll run through the list at the end, tell everybody where everything landed, remind everybody, and then we will post the final results on the Inside All-Star Superfan Facebook group. Okay, so up first, from 1941, we have the World's Fair Parade costume worn by Ray Middleton. So, a brief description: wool or cotton blend material, loose fit, dark blue with red trunks and red boots, which seem to be tied together with laces at the front. Red cape stopping around mid-thigh. So this is what makes this very unique, is that we have the Golden Age shield with the red S. I think it's on the black background. It's hard to see from photographs. It could be a very, very dark red, but it actually physically says Superman over the S. Black, possibly dark red background, yellow belt with circular buckle. So this suit was possibly, it's hard to 100% confirm, and I don't want to credit the wrong people, but possibly created by the Eves Costume Company back in 1941. So, Rob, do you want to take this one and tell us what you think about it?
Yeah, this was one of the ones we were fighting about. And I was like, no, this has to go on the list. This is the very first, this is the first time anyone saw Superman for real. Was at this New York World's Fair event, and they had this actor dressed in the costume. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster were there. They met this man. There was kids there. There's all these photos of kids at the event, and this was like the first time ever. There was no, I don't even think the Fleischer cartoons were out at this stage. There was nothing. There was the comics, and there was this. So I you see all those kids at that event, and you just think, that must have been just an incredible day for those kids, just to see Superman come to life. And I think it looks absolutely fine for a guy at a parade. this looks the business, and he's got that steely look in his eyes. I like this one, I have to say, and I'm you know, and I know what you're saying about the text on the costume looking like a shitty 70s Halloween thing. I think it looks elegant to no fear. I don't think it looks distractingly bad. Like it's within the triangle. Oh, so it's like Superman at the top of the S, and then the S directly under it. I actually think it looks kind of elegant, and it looks kind of nice. And yeah, this guy, he just looks great. I really like it, and I like the tie up boots like Joe Shuster used to draw. So yeah, no, I really like this one.
It could legitimately have been the case that they wrote Superman on it so people would know who it was.
100%
because
that's what they did. 100% that's why they did it.
And if you look at colorized photos, the bodysuit itself is actually a really deep blue, and the red is a real kind of a rich, vibrant red. Like it is quite impressive that they put so much effort into it. Parker, what do you think of this one?
Well, so based on this like low quality black and white photo of this Depression era man who was probably doing this job in a parade like for a loaf of bread for the day because he was 4F from World War II. Based on all that, the guy has his hands on his hips. He's doing the classic Superman pose looking into the distance. That's pretty cool to see from something that old. This would have been really cool to see at the time. I think you can really clearly see the guy's like full cock outlined in his briefs there, like really clearly. You can bleep that, I guess, but like so.
No, we don't bleep. We don't bleep here.
So that's something that having Superman written across the top of the shield is one of those funny sort of Milhouse radioactive man type costume details. But yeah, good point. You'd want people to know who it was at the time. And I'm actually kind of surprised that hasn't been worked into any costume since. The way like the Superman Returns costumes has tiny little S's on every inch of it. Go further, have the whole word Superman on there.
So Rob, when Rob initially did up this spreadsheet with all these costumes on it, you gave it an iconic factor of 1 out of 5. So my question to you guys is, what would you rate it now out of 5?
Nobody knows that this one exists. Parker had never seen it before. Right now, Parker, is a huge Superman fan. It's not iconic. I think it's very impressive for the time. I'm gonna on a curve. I would give it a 3.
Parker?
Yeah, I'd give it a solid 3 as well. Like for the first one ever, for trying to make this a thing in live action, pretty solid job. Like there have been much more recent costumes that I don't think look as good as this. Like all the pieces are there. The boots lacing up in the front is pretty cool. We've seen that like briefly in a few different costumes since, and just yeah, like it's. I like that they got such a good iconic photo of it. This is like the exact same hands on hips pose that's been used for like the Brandon Routh costume debut and just any comic cover or statuette since. It's so easy to imagine this photo just being like a weird hunched over guy like trying to hide his polio condition and standing next to a rainy parade full of hollow cheeked children. And no, they really went for it.
I have to say one thing. When you look at some of the photos, Ray Middleton really put his heart and soul into it, and I'd say enjoyed it on the day. You can see him, he's riding on floats and stuff, he's waving to the crowd, and like you said, even the pose there with his hands on the hips, fair play. I agree, I totally agree, guys. I think it is a 3 out of 5. Truth, justice and serviceable style. So we'll move on. Next up is 1949. We're talking about the Kirk Alyn suit from the Kirk Alyn serials, obviously. A brief description there: heavy wool bodysuit and trunks, coloured grey and brown, large S-shield, lightweight cape attached at shoulders, stopping at knees, yellow belt with round buckle, brown boots with rounded top. Now, I don't know who, I'm not sure who created it, who designed it. I tried to look it up there. I even looked through the credits of the Kirk Alyn serial and couldn't see anything specifically, anyone specifically credited with it. So if anybody knows, let us know. But Parker, I'll throw this one out to you first. What do you think about this one?
So for all the black and white ones, like I'm going to judge them just based on how they are in black and white, because that's what they are developed for and presented. Like we've seen colorized photos of this suit. And they look great. But yeah, like in real life, it was apparently gray and brown, whatever. Like we only saw it in black and white. I'd give this one a 4. It's basically like a perfect Superman costume. If you like, it looks the same now as like anyone's just sort of platonic ideal mental image of Superman. The only issue I have with this costume is that the cape doesn't tuck into the collar. It just sort of sits on top of the shoulders next to the collar. And I don't know if that's because like the tuck in hadn't happened in the comics yet, but just like as like a just design principles sort of thing, that is a little clunky. I have that issue with lots of different costumes over the years, and I just like the flow of when the cape tucks into the collar. But it's still unintrusive. It's sitting high on the shoulders. This is a just your classic Superman costume that I think every live action one since has sort of descended from. So yeah, easily a 4.
Rob, this is pretty impressive for the late 40s, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I do. I quite like this one. The only major difference I notice with this one compared to George Reeves' one is he's got these little cuffs at the top of his at the end of his sleeves. They're like cuffs, and they're kind of like quilted cuffs. I always thought they were pretty sharp. And the S logo is a little bit more cartoony looking. If you look at it very closely, it is slightly different to the George Reeves S. And actually, to Parker's point about the cape, I actually think the cape does tuck in on the Kirk Alyn one. It just doesn't on the George Reeves one. So that's another point for Kirk Alyn there. If I'm docking points on this one at all, it's just that I don't think Kirk Alyn looks as good in it. Are we talking about hairstyles in this discussion? Because his hair always bothers me when I watch those. He's just got that curly mop of hair. But no, generally speaking, I like this one fine. I don't love it. It's fine.
You're wrong about the cape. Look at other photos. It is not tucked into the collar. It sits right on the shirt.
Okay. Okay.
It's hard to see in this photo, but I've got other photos in front of me.
Rob, what would you rate it out of 5?
Oh, it's gonna be another 3, I think. I think it's gonna be a 3 for this one, I'm afraid, yeah. And the only reason I'm docking points is it's kind of an actor thing as well. I think the actor and the costume together, it's a 3.
I think I'm going to have to side with Parker here. I think it's a 4. I think it's pretty iconic. I think it's really clean. I think it's really sharp. I think he looks good in it. I love the length of the cape. I'm not a huge fan of a very long cape. I like a cape that kind of comes like the Christopher Reeve capes, the kind of back of the knees. Yeah, I think it's for 1940s, and compared to what we saw, and I know the previous one was in relation to a parade costume as such, whereas this is for actual movie serials. I think he looks great. I've seen numerous photos of it. I actually have a Kirk Alyn autograph behind me that I picked up a few years ago, and another high resolution photo of the suit there. And to be honest, I have no issues with how he looks. Performance wise, everything else, presence wise, that's totally different. We're not talking about that. But I have to say, I think it's a solid 4 out of 5. House of Elegance all the way. So we'll move on again, guys. Next up, 1951, George Reeves. So we're going to do the George Reeves suits in 2 sections. First up, we're going to do the black and white suit, obviously from the Adventures of Superman TV series. So thick wool blend fabric, durable but heavy, grey bodysuit, brown/burgundy cape, trunks and boots. The S-shield sewn into the chest, lightweight cape, stopping mid-calf, with leather boots, and designed, this time we know, by Western costumes. So, Rob, George Reeves, you're a huge George Reeves fan. What do you think of the George Reeves, the initial George Reeves black and white suit?
The initial black and white George Reeves suit gets a 5 out of 5 for me. It's perfect. It's gorgeous. It's so nice, and it's also, I think, it's just because he's wearing it. It's a big thing for me. He just adds so much to it, and yeah, no, it's absolutely gorgeous, and I love that it was grey and brown in real life. And I'm always trying to find a good T-shirt of the George Reeves S, but I wouldn't even want it to be blue and red. I actually want one that's like grey and brown that I can wear just like a T-shirt.
Parker, what do you think?
Yeah, like I would go 5 out of 5, but there's room for improvement. Like I want to leave that ceiling up there, but it is like I have no criticisms about the costume. It is basically perfect. Like there's details that are like similar to the Kirk Alyn one. Like the tall boots have the little M shape at the top. Like a detail that could easily just not be there, and different adaptations have kind of left out. And it's got that great, like, the thick belt with the big gold sovereign of a buckle. The S logo on the George Reeves one was always a little kind of shorter and stouter and kind of squashed looking, if you know what I mean. But it also that suits George Reeves' figure. And yeah, like, to Rob's point, like, this is the first time we've seen a Superman, a live action Superman that has that really big, broad boxer physique from the comics. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's great in black and white. I've definitely, when we've talked over the last 20 years about the dream Superman video game and all the different costumes you'd want in there, like, one of the ones that I get the most emotional fantasizing about would be the black and white, like a black and white mode where you play in the George Reeves costume and skin and all that and fly around with the whoosh,
Yes.
and it would just be so, so great. I would spend 100 hours doing that. So yeah, like, it must be said as well, the George Reeves Superman costume is basically like what really introduced the world to the Superman costume. This is the most widely seen by far. Like, so yeah.
Out of 5, what would you rank it?
Like, I gotta go 4 just because I know there's upcoming ones that I like better, but like, it's an honorary 5, or it's a personal 4 for finicky little reasons, for like the really stringent conversation we're having about it now. But like, in terms of all time suits, it's probably top 3. It's perfect. Like, yeah.
I pretty much agree with both of you. I just wanted to ask you, I don't think anybody mentioned it. And it was something that I spoke about this previously in the podcast. I only started watching the George Reeves show about 10 years ago, and it took me by surprise because I had no knowledge of it really before that, was the way the cape drapes down the back is very kind of, it's very different to any other version of the live action suit that I've seen. What do you think about that, Parker?
Yeah, it's kind of narrow, like, I guess because he's so broad shouldered. So I think his huge kind of deltoid muscles at the back. What is that, right?
Yeah.
Or the trapezius or whatever he's got, like, his big kind of broad shoulders and shoulder blades and stuff, I think we're always kind of forcing the cape off his shoulders and into the center of his figure instead of it hanging over his shoulders later. So, and that's kind of like there's something to be said for that. It makes his figure kind of stand out more. And I don't know, it's kind of cool. I like to see the cape more, but it is really cool this way. And
I would say to that point as well, it was something I came up against initially. I do like to see the cape kind of bunch up at the front and tucked in. But like, when I look at George Reeves, and especially when I watched that show, it came out in the height of the Silver Age, but it is a Golden Age Superman show. Like, it's Golden Age plots. It's him going around like punching mobsters and stuff like that. Even his power levels in it, like, he does some crazy stuff in the color episodes, but like, for the most part, it's a lot of Golden Age Superman type stuff. And like, definitely in the Golden Age, I think the cape looked more like that. It was like, it was hanging from the back of his shoulders as opposed to being tucked in. So I think I appreciate it in that sense. I don't love that part of it, but I just really appreciate it. And he just brings so much to it, and I just love looking at it. Last thing I'll say is I really like the belt. It's kind of weathered. It's kind of like, it looks like it's gold rather than yellow, which I like, because the gold belt sometimes, or the yellow belt sometimes, I think they look a bit plastic, whereas gold can just give it a bit more depth. So I like that. Even in black and white, it looks gold, which is cool.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you both said there. I think it's an iconic suit. I think I'm going to go with Parker. House of Elegance, 4 out of 5. I think there is room for improvement there. It is iconic, but I think it's a solid 4. So to move on to the coloured version of the George Reeves suit, I'll bring it up here. So this was obviously, again, in the Adventures of Superman TV show. Not a hell of a lot in the difference here. Brighter comic accurate colours, yellow belt, gold buckle.
So basically, the S, first of all, is different. And the bit where, like, the top right corner of the S meets the corner of the Pentagon, it's kind of sloppy. Like, it looks like a little, they put a little yellow rectangle there, and it just doesn't quite look right. And it's sort of a boxier shaped pentagon. the other thing then is that whatever padding he's wearing now, poor old George Reeves probably put on a bit of weight at this stage as well. The padding makes it look a lot chunkier as well. It doesn't look like muscles anymore. It just looks like he's wearing like a big, massive plastic shell over his body. And then, yeah, the cape hanging from his back it feels like a bigger issue here than it was with the black and white suit, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I don't know, like his shoulders are just so broad you can barely see the cape at all. So yeah, I've never really liked the way this one sits on him as well as the other one did. I thought the other one looked better. Maybe it was just that he was, as we say, he was getting older. His lifestyle was not the best. We all know that. There was a multitude of factors. The other thing as well is that the sleeves don't go. The sleeves don't look long enough on him or something. Yeah, there's a lot to kind of digest with this one. It never really sits with me as well. Looking at it, and it's one of the things that's kind of off-putting about the color years. And the other thing to remember as well, you can't talk about the George Reeves color costume without referring to the fact that, like, the first time the episodes were broadcast, they weren't even broadcast in color. So they filmed them in color, but then they continued broadcasting them in black and white. The actual color was not seen until the 60s when they were airing in reruns. So when they broadcasted in black and white, it was like a black suit nearly. It was just like really, really dark. And like if you look at the I Love Lucy episode that George Reeves was in, you can kind of get a sense of what it looked like. It was just like really, really dark, and it just looks wrong. So yeah, I'm not super crazy. I prefer the black and white one, I have to say.
So I think the most notable differences, so in comparison, the cape does look longer in the coloured suit. Am I right there? It looks a good bit longer.
It might be longer, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously the S-shield is quite different. It's a lot more angular, like you said there. Parker, what do you think of the coloured suit?
You've all made good points, and the Lucy version of the suit I feel like is almost different. Like it's really hard to talk about Superman costumes in color because I feel like depending on what photo you're looking at and what transfer of any given media you're looking at, like the blue for like just varies wildly. Sometimes it's like cyan, sometimes it's this darker kind of thing, and ditto like just like the saturation of the yellow and all that. So the Lucy like in color in that I Love Lucy episode, the belt is like a solid yellow with the gold buckle. But on the actual Color Adventures of Superman episode, the belt is more of that kind of just like pale beige, or not beige, like tan kind of color. And still with the gold buckle. So like the Lucy version of the suit is kind of the preferable one, but you can't see any of the cape on the shoulder. You can see it coming down behind his back, but there's like none of it's up near the collar, and that I'm not crazy about, but I don't know, it's such a thrill to see the George Reeves costume in color anyway. Like for those of us, like my family, we watched all the black and white episodes, like originally, on tapes, and then again on DVD in the 2000s. And when we got to the color ones, it's just like so surreal and exciting. So I really like I'm gonna give it a 4 as well. It's like there's a few finicky little issues in general, but it's just kind of hard like looking from pick to pick, and I don't know. I love this costume in color. It's really cool.
Rob, where are you on the 1 to 5 scale for this one?
I'm really sorry. I'm gonna have to go with a 2 on this. I don't think it looks well. I don't think he looks great in it. I think the episodes aren't good, and
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with the suit, though.
I know it doesn't. I know it doesn't. But it's all these elements working together. It doesn't work for me. And I remember even as a kid looking at it, going, "Ooh, what's going on here?" Like, and I didn't get that looking at the black and white one as a kid. The black and white one, I was like, "Oh, this is cool. This is Superman." But when you get to the color episodes, you're like, "Ooh, you really have to get used to how weird it looks." So yeah, it's a 2 for me, I'm afraid.
I'm looking at it here. It almost looks like the boots are kind of a suede material in the actual, not the photo I have on screen here, but the actual photo of the proper suit. Looks almost like a kind of a suede kind of color. I like that. But yeah, so Rob, you are 2, Parker, you're 4. I think I'll meet you in the middle and go with a 3. Truth, justice, and serviceable style. I think the middle ground is okay. I think 3 is fair for it. Do you think the bodysuit itself is the same woolen material as the black and white suit, or did they kind of lighten it up a little bit? Because it doesn't look as heavy, but maybe it's just the photos themselves.
I think there was something about that, and apologies, we haven't done our research for this episode, but I think it was different material because of the color, yeah.
So next up, we have Bob Holliday's Superman suit from the 1966 Broadway musical. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. Parker, are you a fan of the Broadway show?
I cannot say I'm a fan. I have never seen I've never seen so much as like a clip from it, or maybe a few clips back in the literal 2000s internet forum days. What's worth talking about here. Actually, first of all, I only found out that there were two separate kind of tours of it 10 years apart. I had no idea until I think this year that it was originally a big thing in 1966. I think I thought of it as more of an early 70s thing, but because there's two different iterations of it. But my relationship with the musical is that I had never heard of it somehow before the Superman homepage days. And my dad, even though he was this huge fan and knew all kinds of crazy trivia about like every different version of Superman media, like over the 50 years there. I don't remember him ever bringing it up. He didn't suffer a lot of the campy stuff lately, so he just like wouldn't mention a lot. It's like, oh, there was some stupid thing where they tried to turn it into hair or tried to turn it into, I don't know, Jesus Christ Superstar or something like that. And so I don't know if he ever saw it either. But anyway, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman to me is synonymous with when Rob and I were 15-year-olds on the forum. Tons of the sort of like 50-year-old Superman fans in the 2000s would talk about it and talk about how they had original merch from it and talk about like, oh, and the wife tried to take it in the divorce, but the joke was on her because I snuck out with the costume, with Bob Holliday's costume on under my suit that night on our way to the court. So it was just like it's the peak of like sad, like boomer era super fans that had just aged into like depressing 2000s times. And when in my mind, I do not remember.
It's like looking into a mirror.
Not yet. In my mind, the costume never looked anywhere near as good as it looked in this photo. I picture that play. Maybe this will be the case with the 70s version, but like I picture the costume in my memories of clips of it from the 2000s. And I remember like the actor, like, yeah, just like wearing this like Spirit Halloween quality black beetle wig. And I remember like the belt being white, maybe the yellow parts on the S being white. Like I remember it looking horrible. Whereas in the photo you've got of us here, it looks terrific. Like it just looks like, yeah, it's just like straight out of the comics Superman costume. The S is kind of wonky, but it's really hard to rate the S's of these things because every person does design, like it's a choice, right? I like a thicker top of the red part of the S. And this one has a really thin one with a huge yellow area that always looks kind of lopsided to me. I gotta give this at least a 4. Like 4 is, or I don't know. I think I'm being too generous with the 4. Like it's like a 3. I don't know. It's the wonky S is the only sort of issue. It's hard to see. I need to see kind of more pictures of it, maybe.
The suit we're talking about, obviously, as we said, was worn by Bob Holliday in the 1966 special. It's a light, stretchable fabric, brighter, kind of a glossy finish, slimmer fit, I'd say, than the George Reeves suit. The cape is attached to the collar, yellow belt with a large buckle, boots with a slight, if you actually, and you can see this in other photos, he has a slight heel on the boots. Apparently that was to do with the fact that there was singing and dancing and stuff going on. Cape comes down to the mid-calf and a very large, I am a fan of a large S shield. I grew up in the Dean Keane era. I like a big S. And this...
He likes big S's.
Yeah. And the suit was designed originally by Florence Klotz. Rob, what's your thoughts on the Holiday? So I know we discussed Bob Holiday last year, and it's one of the he's one of the big takeaways I got from the musical episode we did was Bob Holliday and how seriously he took it, and I really just enjoyed watching interviews with him and seeing him perform and stuff. What do you think of the suit?
Yeah, it's incredible. It's beautiful. Like, it looks absolutely. If you look at a Wayne Boring drawing of Superman from the late 50s or the early 60s, this is Superman. It looks like he walked off the page of a comic. It looks almost absolutely perfect. Like, I was looking at Google Images there, trying to find flaws in the Bob Holiday suit. I would say maybe the boots aren't quite perfect. That's like maybe the one thing I would point out, that the boots are kind of they look like a little bit big for him, and the trim on them is a little bit, maybe a bit sloppy. But like, everything else looks great. If this was in a movie in the 60s, this would be like, this is as good or better equivalent to, you know, like Adam West Batman. But like, that's the other thing that was out this year. And this is as good or better a Superman costume as that is a Batman costume for that era. Like, it's absolutely great. Like, it's so good. So
There's a statement that means different things to different people, depending on how you feel about the Adam West costume. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know exactly. You know, and to cite your father as well again, Parker. Your late father, I think, despised the Adam West show, because he was actually old enough to remember the serial. His first experience with Batman was the serials, and he loved the serials. And then the Adam West show came out, and he just thought it was a farce, and they were making fun of it and all that stuff. So I remember him telling me that.
He had a lot of nostalgia for West himself, but yeah.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd have to agree, Rob. I think, like, if this Superman had appeared in the 60s, in the 1966, 67, 68 Batman TV series with Adam West, I think this would have looked great on screen. I think this would have looked great. I think he, physique wise, he's perfect. I think, like you said, he looks like he just stepped off a Wayne Boring comic. What would you give this one, Rob?
I'm gonna say 4, just because I don't want to be throwing 5s out willy nilly. But like, I you know, it's a hesitant 4. Like, it's almost a 5 for me. It's that good.
What do you think, Parker?
Yeah, like, I gotta go with the 4. Like, it's the wonkiness of the S is kind of a preference. The buckle, I think, is actually kind of small, and it's got this weird sort of two-tiered kind of areola quality to it that becomes a facet of lots of different Batman costumes much later. But yeah, it's a 4, but for those things, like you guys say, like, if this appeared on screen anywhere, the Batman show, or just like it's awesome. I love a huge S shield. Like, the Alex Ross Superman costume is what I like, and the shape of the S itself isn't perfect. The size is great. Like, now we're talking. This is the first really big S shield on a costume.
Excellent. And if this suit was the Jesus Christ of Superman suits, the next one is the Antichrist of Superman suits. It's the 1975 TV special Superman suit from, obviously, It's a Bird, It's a Plane. It was brought to TV screens in the States in 1975. David Wilson wore the suit. It's a cheaper, less durable fabric compared to Bob Holliday's, obviously. Very loose fit, much lower neckline, smaller S in more of a diamond shape, shorter cape. Cape is it even mid calf? And he's wearing boots in this image I have here. But if I remember correctly, Rob, when we watched the TV special, he doesn't actually wear boots at all in the TV special itself. It's just his...
No, he does wear boots, but there are scenes where he's not wearing boots, yeah. And it's just like, he's just wearing the onesie, and you can just see his little blue feet, and it just looks so bad.
Now, this probably isn't the best photo that I have up on screen for you guys, but to be honest, it's one that shows the entirety of the suit. A lot of them, he was kind of, he's cut off the waist, or he's sitting down, all that kind of stuff. Parker, I'm going to open this up with you. Firstly, have you seen the TV special?
Oh, certainly not. No. I would love to watch it. Is it one of those things that's easily findable now online, or is it
It's on YouTube.
Is it? Okay, yeah. This is
not only is it on YouTube, it's a version that someone taped off the television in 1975.
Oh, terrific.
And it's got ads on
Beautiful.
it. and it's like a disintegrating tape, so you can hear whatever they had recorded prior to that is still like faintly on the tape as well.
I should give like for context, like yeah, old taped from TV things with the commercials left in are one of my favorite things in the world. Like literally last year or like within the past couple of years, I finished a 10-year quest to get my sister and my childhood tape of the Mary Martin Broadway Peter Pan musical broadcast. They rebroadcast that in 1989, and my parents taped it off TV on one of my dad's like news station surplus beta tapes. And my sister and I watched that a million times as kids, and the commercials became part of it for us. And then I literally spent 10 years checking out different tape digitizing places around the city until I finally found one like an hour from me that could do like an old TV station beta like that. Not a regular beta tape. No, like that would have been no trouble. But this anyway, point is we needed to have all those commercials, and watching that again with all the commercials, it's just such a delight. And I would love to watch the 70s. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman that way sometime. I guess we have.
I was just going to say, it's so funny you say that. It just brought me right back to Batman Returns. I recorded Batman Returns on the TV circa 1996, and that was my version. I never rented that movie out from the video store because you'd be wasting a movie if it was recorded at home. And for a solid 10 years, I'd say right up to the mid 2000s. That was the version that I still remember what trailers were on. It was on a Christmas in '96, and there's something very visceral about that. I think that's great. Parker, say something good about this suit, or
oh well, what can I say about this suit? I've got a bunch of pictures of it in front of me. Something good about it is that the cape is definitely tucked into the collar.
yes,
And the colors are good. This will become like a big issue, I think, later into this conversation in terms of like the saturation of the colors. I am like a diehard, like solid red, yellow, and blue guy, and a lot of the more recent suits have kind of been a little too cool, perhaps, to be so brightly colored. So you got some nice solid red, yellow, and blue, but like it's the belt. Yeah, the belt's like a solid. It's another one where it's like it's a solid yellow with a gold buckle. Uh, so let me just get to it. Um, the collar is way too low. This is the one that I remember from like seeing clips of the forums. Like just looking so silly. Like the black beetle wig, the collar is like lopsidedly sinking halfway down this guy's pecs, and it's the S shield. I really like the shape of the S itself, but the shield is really squashed like horizontally, so it's really tall and thin. Like you said, kind of like a diamond or like an actual shield shaped rather than like a pentagon. Um, and yeah, oh, the boots are like just like red vinyl cowboy boots you'd find in like your mom's closet from like her 80s wear, like it's or 70s wear. Like it's that like we're talking about fabric textures and fabric quality and stuff. A thing I'm big on is I really like the boots on a Superman costume to be as thin as possible. Yeah, like and that's another thing. Like a lot of my opinions on a lot of this stuff are dogma from my dad and like his observations growing up. But like for me, it's that yeah, they should be like plastic socks basically that can fit into Clark Kent's business shoes. Superman doesn't need any protection like for a thick boot like Batman does. So it's like, yeah, they should just kind of be plastic socks. These are cowboy boots that you couldn't fit into a pair of snow pants. Like, so yeah, and that's another issue that'll come up again and again, as we go from here. And yeah, the cape is barely like it's barely halfway down the back of his thighs. If you're looking for like a long trench coat, like a calf length wool coat these days, like the best you're finding is a coat about the length of this cape, just this apology that ends above the knees and is like, yeah.
Well, Rob, let me ask you this question. Do you think the majority of the problems with this suit are due to the fit? The fact that it doesn't fit this guy?
That's a great question. No, no, I don't. No, like even the belt, just it looks like it looks like a fucking bag of crisps that they stretched out into it. It just looks so bad. It looks like a shoelace. It just looks.
Hey
I
man, he's
actually
ragging
don't.
on the cord.
I don't mind. I actually don't mind the S shield. Like it's kind of an interesting kooky. It again, it sort of looks like a weird Wayne Boring drawing from the 60s or something like that. It sort of has a weird kooky comic book look to it. But like the plunging neckline, it's just, and you can see where the cape is velcroed on.
Yeah.
It's just appalling. It's so bad. And it's like, I like to grade these things in a curve, and I like to think, what were the resources they had at the time? There's no excuse for this. We know that people can do better at fan conventions. Like, people at home can do better than this. Yeah, like people back then were able to do better than this, like themselves. Like, there's no excuse for this. And I've made jokes about it before. I genuinely would like to interview this guy, David Wilson, because I'm fascinated by the existence of this thing. I keep saying it, like it is so bad, that TV special, but like I find it so interesting and engaging to watch, and he is a bit like he is arguably the most miscast Superman ever, and this costume does him no favors at all. But yeah, no, I can't think of anything I like about this, to be honest. The colors, fair enough. Yeah, I like the colors of it. That's
He
fair.
does play Superman like a discount John Travolta knockoff, to be fair.
Oh,
Um,
he plays like a discount Frank Stallone knockoff. Like,
Yeah.
So I look. There's no need to drag this out any further. Oh, quick question: Do you think this could be the second lowest Superman collar that'll be on our list, or the highest? Because I can think of a '90s Superman who had a very low collar for a certain amount of time.
Until we get to, I could be wrong. I think it's this, and it's so low, but it's also lopsided. It's lower on one side than the other.
We won't drag this out any further, guys. I presume we're all giving this a 1, are we?
no, it's a one for me. I'm sorry, one.
Yeah, and it's a 1 from me. What do you think, Parker?
I got to give it a 2, and the reason is the execution is pretty poor, but they were still trying to do a pretty faithful Superman costume. The solid, like really solid, vivid red, yellow, and blue colors take it to a 2 for me. The faithful attempt at the S. Yeah, like there are other. Here's the question: is there a yellow shield on the cape for this? We have totally blown past that issue in like 11 costumes by now.
Oh yes, we have. Yeah. I think there is, Alan. Is there not?
I didn't think there was.
Because that's a big thing for the Kirk Alyn and George Reeves costumes. Just had the regular red and yellow S on the
Which
cape.
yeah, we missed to mention that, and I have to say one thing. I really like that. It's different to what came later, obviously, in the comics with Christopher Reeve and everything. But I like the look of the coloured S almost on the back, especially on Kirk Alyn's one. I think it's really nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm a solid yellow cape S fan, but the most important thing to me is that the shield is on the cape. I always prefer the shield on the cape to just a plain red cape.
Moving on from possibly one of the worst, if not the worst, Superman costumes to one of the best of all time. I don't think too many people are going to argue with this. The 1978 Superman the movie costume worn by Christopher Reeve, designed by Yvonne Blake. Subsequently, the designs were altered slightly for the sequel films based on the designs by Yvonne Blake, obviously. But described, look, everybody knows this suit: light blue, skin tight spandex and lycra blend, knee high red boots, large original style S, yellow belt with oval buckle, knee length cape made from. Now, I looked this up at an auction house. The cape is made from a wool carbidine, which I have no idea what that mix is. I actually have an exact replica of the cape here behind me. Rob, I'm going to start off with you. The Christopher Reeve Superman suit. Where do you stand on it?
I'm kind of a little bit indifferent to it. I think like a big part of why it's so good is Christopher Reeve. Not that it's necessarily a great suit on its own. I like the wonky, weird, like goopy, gloopy looking S shield, but it wouldn't be my preference. Like, not by a long shot. Like, I like it because it reminds me of those films, not because it's actually good, not because it looks nice. You know, that kind of way. I feel like the cape should be longer, and I feel like the S should be longer on his chest as well, if that makes sense. And also, I think crucially, I've mentioned this a couple of times. I feel like they should have done more with the belt. The belt just looks like a piece of plastic to me. And you know that's not an issue I have with the George Reeves belt. So it's not an age thing. It's just and you know if even we were going to do the screen test one there, they were trying to do something there with the belt in the screen test one where that they made the buckle gold or something. I feel like they could have done something like that. So yeah, no, like obviously Christopher Reeve, his presence and his stature makes it better, but it's not a perfect score for me. This one, I think it's very very solid, but I think they could have done more to make it like stand out on a movie screen, and that is something we're going to be talking about a bit more. Is like you know just because it's comic accurate doesn't necessarily mean that it looks good in live action. You know when you light it and film it, you know, and I think that is a problem that they had with this suit was it just looks like a big glob of color. Whereas, you know, in order for it to have texture and in order for it to look interesting when you light it and you cast a shadow on it, you want to have details on it, you know? And I think Parker is going to start shaking his head pretty violently there in a second. But yeah, like I obviously like this. It's obvious like this is the greatest Superman ever, you know. But I don't think it's as perfect as everyone says. Like you know when Zach is always saying, oh, you know, they had the perfect costume in 1978. I don't think they did, you know. So that's where I'm at. I obviously like it, but it's not perfect for me.
Wow, that I wasn't expecting that. Parker, do you want to counter that, or do you agree?
I will mostly counter that. I definitely get where Rob's coming from. I'm actually like, so I'm going out of my way to look at like as many photos of it as I can, even though like I'm, you know, as familiar with it as I am anything in the world. This suit to me mostly relies on, I think, like the quality of the print of the movie you're seeing. Because there have been lots of different ones. This one's notorious for like looking green in some of the original transfers because it was blue screen for the backgrounds back then. So the suit they really had to crank up the cyan factor. But everything since it's been remastered from like 2000 on, where it's got that really solid royal blue color, um, especially in the night scenes, the scene with him on the date with Lois Lane at night, I think it's just pure dopamine, like looking at this suit for me in every frame. The colors look so good. It's the pure like it's like the reddest and yellowest and bluest I think the costume has like ever been. Um, I'm trying to get down to specifics. Like I guess like the only thing I can say like about this suit like that's like less than perfect is the unusual sort of shape of the S. It's the S shield here is really soft. It's really like rounded, but like I still think it's kind of wrong in all the right ways for me, and I'm biased because this is yeah, like there's other ones where it's like the off-model S I think like looks bad. It looks dorky or aggressive or like there's I don't know for I'm sure you guys know what it's like the S has such an expression to it for those of us who are so familiar all the different versions this S the weirdness about it evokes such a sense of positivity and sunshine and like this teddy bear kind of quality so I love that about it the cape length, I think a thing I love about the length of the Chris Reeve costume is the cape goes down to about like two-thirds of the way up his calves when it's just hanging there. When he puts his hands on his hips, the cape goes over his elbows and gets stretched out behind him really well, and the length of it gets brought up just to the tops of the boots. And I think visually that works really well as well. The boots are really tall. Like these might be the highest boots of the series. They're almost up to his knees, and the M kind of like the middle of the M at the top of the boots is really wide and kind of wraps around his kneecaps almost. So the boots are pretty high, but I don't know. These are really close, I think, to the aforementioned like ideal boots where they're just sort of made of thin plastic kind of. They don't look like any material I can name, and for like the in-universe lore of this suit, it is seemingly like generated by Jor-El in the Fortress of Solitude forum. It's never really explained, but I like how it looks like it's made out of alien material that way. I Rob's pulling out the father crystal.
Rob's holding up the green crystal.
Um, I love in particular like the belt in this one for the reasons I think
Really?
Rob is against it. Yeah, I love the belt just looks like this yellow plastic again in just like this friendly toy-like way that I think is really satisfying. And I like how the buckle is kind of just the buckle is the exact like the oval of the buckle is the exact height of the belt, and the belt is really thick, so it just sort of sits perfectly in the middle, and it looks like something that was generated out of thin air by alien technology in just like this simple way. It doesn't look like something that was sewn together. Um, and to get like really into the nuance here, like so, Rob, you mentioned for one of the earlier costumes, I think the George Reeves color costume, that the sleeves were kind of weirdly short. Um,
Yeah.
and I noticed that's kind of the case with the Reeve one as well. Like the cuff is just above his wrist bone, but
Yeah.
that's another thing that it's like, yeah, because it's gotta be hideable under a suit jacket. The Henry Cavill suit makes no sense where it's got the cuffs that go all the way up to like the heel of his hand. It's like you're gonna see that under his business shirt. So I like the shorter cuffs, the lower collar. This is the absolute best ever, I think, cape tuck into a collar job of any of them. So anyway, I'll wrap it up, but this is the perfect suit for me. I'm not saying they should just redo it in every version since. I love the simplistic fabric. It's an absolute 5 out of 5, and the like the first shirt rip scene in Superman the movie, when you see that huge blast of color when he opens his shirt at night in the street. To me, that's just like the sun shining out of this alien symbol on his chest in this way that it's like everything's going to be okay. And I'll always associate this suit and that symbol and all that with that. So yeah, 5 if there ever was one.
Very well said.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to add too much more to this. Obviously, you know, I'm heavily biased when it comes to Christopher Reeve and Christopher Reeve movies. I think the suit is perfect. I absolutely love it. It's the first Superman that I think of, you know, that I remember as a kid. It's the Superman I imagine when I close my eyes and think of the character. The color, the belt. Yeah, the belt looks cheap, but again, like you said, Parker, I think it's perfect for this costume. It's real kid friendly. The yellow, is very hopeful. I've always loved this S. It's not the traditional Superman S, the trademarked S as such, but it is it's a lovely soft S. I
love a soft S.
I love a soft S, that is so identifiable as Chris's S. The cape, I think, is the perfect length. And it's something we'll talk about later. I hate really long capes. Like we'll talk about Dean's later on, and Henry Cavill's ones that literally go to the floor. I don't understand that. I don't think there's any need for it. He doesn't need all that to look regal and to look like the hero that he is. I am not a huge fan of that at all. The way the collar tucks is perfect. Obviously, Chris looks great in it. It's fit to his physique. I'm right up there with you, Parker, in terms of when I see like thick, soled boots, thick material, it always bothers me. I'm like, why? Superman doesn't need that. He doesn't need an armored suit. There's no way that those, and look, it is ridiculous. There's no way these boots are going into a pair of shoes. But, in order to make that, you got to lube me up a little bit to make me.
Oh my goodness gracious. I thought Parker was going to say the most adult thing of the episode.
You have to help me slide into the fantasy. And, this does. Now, I'll tell you one thing. There's no way in hell you'd put on this cape that I have behind me and get it underneath a suit, shirt and tie. It just wouldn't happen. But, it's the fantasy element of it. The blues pop, the cuffs, like you said, great point, Parker. He has to get it under his shirt. It always bothered me with the new 52, with the high collars and the high cuffs, even cuffs coming halfway up the hand almost, to a point and things like that. There are slight variations as the movies go along, as the films progress. Obviously, in Superman 4, we have a more of a kind of a teal color bodysuit. We didn't include the Superman 3 suit here, actually, Rob. It only dawned on me here now. It's basically the same suit, just with different, with darker kind of burgundy, almost kind of a color. I think Would that be a good way of describing
like the soiled
like
version when he's bad? Yeah.
Yeah, like a soiled version, which I also love. I think this suit is just phenomenal. For me, it's a 5. Parker, you say it's 5. Rob, where are you putting it?
For me, I think the suit is like a 3.5 or a 4, but Christopher Reeve obviously makes it a 5. Like that image we're looking at him there. That image of him walking in that suit, the way he carries himself, like it is obviously a 5. Like, you know, I'm not going to drag down the prestige of this image of Superman. It's so clearly probably the best image we're ever going to get of Superman in live action. So yeah, it's a 5.
I want to say as well too, this doesn't apply to you, Rob, because I know like you've done it, but for anyone listening who has their doubts about this suit or finds themselves remembering it sometimes just as some like, you know, wonky or pale VHS kind of version, when you go back to like the 4K version of this and look at this suit in the Lois Lane date scene, like that to me is this suit as at its best, and it's just jaw-dropping there. So yeah,
we did mention obviously the LOS on the cape. It includes the LOS on the cape. Even wonkier, I would describe it almost. Then it's very kind of haphazard. And if you look at the way it's stitched, like, you know, the stitches are very visible if you actually get a close up look at the LOS. Anything to say to that before we move on? Are you a fan of that, Parker?
The black outlines, like that's something I'm not crazy about. I like the yellow cape S to have more of like an embroidered look to it, but it like or even if the outlines on it were like red, that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. I'm happy it's there. It's still, you look at Chris Reeve Superman from the back, and that yellow S is an essential part of the picture.
I won't hold any imperfections against the movie for that kind of stuff. Like it is, when you look at it in 4K, you can see the flaws on the LOS, but I never noticed that until like 2018, so I won't hold that against the movie. It's fine.
So moving on, guys, we're going to talk about a show that I don't think we've ever discussed this program before, Rob. It's a Superboy show from the 1980s. I only learned about recently. So we're heading up to, it says 1987 here, I should say 1988. John Haymes Newton's Superboy suit from season 1.
My close personal friend, John Haymes Newton.
Oh, you and John. From Superboy, the TV show, which aired from 88 to 92. So again, look, I didn't put in too much of a description of this, guys. I wrote that it's similar material to Christopher Reeve's suit, traditional trademark S-shield, longer cape to mid-calf, yellow belt, with round buckles. Bring up an image of it here. So Rob, look, you are the Superboy fanatic. You have your own Superboy podcast. So talk to me about John Haymes Newton's suit.
I love it. I think it's great. I think it's perfect. And I think it actually, unlike the one we're going to talk about in a minute, it actually looks like a Superboy costume and not Superman. The tight little S. the S shield is kind of, it's a little bit more compact, I want to say, and it looks very much like the kind of DC Comics house style official branded S. It's probably the most the S shield has ever looked like that. Maybe bar one or two exceptions we'll talk about now in a minute. But yeah, no, absolutely love it. No, he does not look as good as Christopher Reeve. No, he does not carry himself as well. But I think for a Superboy costume for a low budget show in the late 80s on syndicated TV, you couldn't ask for better. It's perfect. I love it.
How would you compare it, Rob, to the Christopher Reeve suit? I mean, I would have thought that you absolutely adored the Christopher Reeve suit. You have issues with that. This is very similar in style, but obviously there's a couple of tweaks to it. Do you want to just walk us through what some of those tweaks are?
Some of the tweaks, the cape is a bit longer, and the S, I think, is a bit cleaner and slicker looking. Now, would I want this S in Christopher Reeve? I don't know. Like I mentioned there, because it's compact, I think of it as being a more youthful looking S shield. So I wouldn't associate this with a Superman suit the same way. I think it needs to be bigger and thicker like the next one is. John himself mentioned that the trunks are kind of slimmer as well because he didn't want the big 70s trunks. That's not a feature I ever really noticed about this suit. And also, I think the blue, that there is no teal in this that I can see. It looks blue to me. And the S on the cape, I think, is literally just the exact same as Christopher Reeve's S, I want to say. So those are the main differences that I notice. If you get up real, like Parker was saying, if you get up real close to it, like Jim Bowers took some photos of it, and if you get like really, really, really close to the S, you can see that it's stitched, and you can see imperfections and flaws. But like this was filmed on videotape it wasn't even filmed on film. It was filmed on videotape because they could hide the cheap special effects better. Like you're never going to see those flaws. So for that, I think this is perfect. But no, sorry, to compare it to Christopher Reeve, the thing about Christopher Reeve is, yes, I don't think that costume is perfect, but he makes it perfect. Whereas this costume is, I would say, a little bit better. But John Newton, as much as I love him, as much as he's a close personal friend, he's not Christopher Reeve. So it's not, those things work together, like, that kind of way. So it's a little bit more of an even playing field when you think of it in those terms,
Parker?
This suit, like anything negative I have to say about it is extreme nitpicking, because like if they used the suit in anything now, I'd be the happiest camper. Like it is just a quintessential Superman suit. It looks like if somebody did a Superman, like bought a Superman suit for Halloween and got like just a perfect version of it. But the thing, like, it's hard to say compared to the Reeve suit color wise in terms of lighting and all that stuff. Like I cite the night scenes in Superman the movie as the Reeve suit colors looking the best. Whereas most of the footage I've seen from Superboy is definitely shot during the day and, like you said, on videotape. So the blue of this one, to me, it airs too far in the other direction from the cyan. It's more getting into like a powder blue periwinkle kind of look. And like in promo photos, it looks like solid blue, but in all the actual shots from the show I see, it's a little kind of paler, a little more red in the blue. So yeah, like that tiny nitpick is the only issue I have with it. I'd also say that while this is like a perfect S from the comics, it's still like it's a little thick, and the way it sits on his chest kind of always ended up looking a little low and squashed for it. Like it's like the S.
It's right on his pecs.
Yeah,
it's right.
Like
down.
the S for this costume probably looked perfect when he wasn't wearing the suit. And then when he wears it, like we've all been through this with superhero logo t-shirts, depending on your physique at the time, it shifts down in some kind of way. It'll be too low, or part of it will be caught like sort of right in your solar plexus or something. So I think it needs to be a little higher. For this shape of logo, there should be less space between the neck and where the top of the logo starts. So yeah, but overall, like it's still just like a terrific costume, and I'm going to give it a 4 just for those little issues, and because like I'm really trying to use the 5s very sparingly, but fantastic suit. So yeah.
I can't believe you mentioned Ray Middleton's outline and you didn't comment on John Haymes Newton's, because this codpiece is ridiculous. That's the only thing.
Prominent, but with Ray Middleton's, you could really see the shape of the whole situation down there, right? This is just a bulge. I see those all the time.
So, Parker, you're 4. Rob, what are you going 5 for this?
Ooh, no, I'm not going to go 5. No, I'll go 4. I wanted my heart wants to say 5, but do you know what? It's Superboy. We're here. It's the podcast. Parker's here. I'm going to go 5. It's 5 for me. Long live Superboy.
I don't have too much to add here, guys. I think this suit looks great. I really do think it's one of the best, air quotes, Superman suits that's been made. I couldn't believe it when I originally watched season 1 episodes a few years ago, how great this looked on screen. He looks like he just stepped off the comic book. The pages, the cape is longer, but it's not so long that it causes me any issues. It's still perfectly within the range that I'm happy with. I think it looks phenomenal. I think this is a 5 as well. I think this is great. I think this is absolute Superman. We'll move on to Gerard Christopher suit. So from 1989 to 92, the part was obviously played by Gerard Christopher, friend of the show. So small differences, Rob, small differences between seasons, a different shade of blue in season 3 and a better yellow S in season 4. Again, the only notes I made is similar to Reeve again, larger S than John Haymes Newton. I thought the trunks looked a little better fitted, taller boots, more polished than John Haymes Newton. I'll bring it up here now. So this is the Gerard Christopher suit. Do you want to talk about this one, Rob?
Yeah, so the S is much wider and bigger than the John Haymes Newton one. And what else? The cape is way longer. It's twice as long as Christopher Reeves. I think they were really taking a lot of inspiration from the John Byrne cape. If you know how that's drawn, it looks very similar to that. And also, whatever way they've done the cape being tucked in, it's kind of like artificially tucked in. I think, if I remember correctly, it's actually like a button that they use. They make it look like it's tucked in, but it's actually not. So it really bunches up at the front, if you look at other images of it. Yeah, like in season 2, the blue is closer to the teal from the Christopher Reeve movies, and it's really teal in a lot of episodes. And then they fixed that in season 3, where it's far closer to like a clear royal blue. And then I think they perfected it in season 4, where they touched up the blue again. And I mentioned that the back of the cape, the S looks much better in season 4 than it does in the previous seasons. Yeah, everyone says this one is the best. I personally, I think it looks a bit wonky in a lot of shots. I think that the issue with the cape bunching up at the front, I also think, bless him, I think Gerard Christopher's hair is just, people giving out about David Carnswet. Go back and watch Adventures of Superboy, guys. Like he's got some funky ass hair in season 3 and 4 of this show. So yeah, I again, it's like, this is another one where everyone says it's perfect, and I'm just like, it's not quite perfect, guys. If you actually go back and look at it, like there's a lot of just little kind of nitpicks I have with this one. But by and large, it's very, very solid. Like
when you look at them in comparison, the trunks of Gerard Christopher's one are they're more underpants, like almost. They're a lot higher, aren't they, than John Haymes Newton's one?
Yeah, they seem to be, actually. That's a good point. I hadn't really noticed that. I tend not to look at I tend not to look at that particular area of Superman when I'm watching a Superman show. But I guess we're all different in our we express our fandoms in different ways. So if that's where you want to look, Alan, that's fine.
What do you think of this one, Parker?
See, when it comes to these suits, I think of myself like a doctor. I'm a very impartial. I'm looking at every inch of it with none of the reservations I would have about anything else. I have a very clinical view of the crotch area on I think every Superman suit. And I will say the one negative I'll say to this one is, the Gerard Christopher trunks, like it's basically a Speedo. Like they're really high on the sides. They're shaped kind of like the letter Y. So that's an issue. That looks really kind of silly, and I think it gives credence. I'm very much a pro red trunks guy. Like I'm diehard for that, but this I think is the sort of version of the trunks that people make fun of, where it's like they're practically a thong. And other than that, though, like
stay tuned for Nicolas Cage.
Oh yeah, I guess no, but no. Other than that, this is terrific. I'm in the camp. I haven't watched a lot of Superboy. Literally 100% of the Superboy I have seen. It has been like watching the odd episode with Rob here and there over the years. But the S shield on this is absolutely perfect, even compared to the John Haymes Newton one for me. Like it's bigger, it's higher up on the chest. There's less space between the collar and the top of the shield. Like I'm sure like it's different between the seasons. So yeah, I'm looking at like a ton of different photos of it. But I'd say like with Christopher Reeve, I know there's at least bias at play because like it's Chris Reeve and I grew up with it, and that is Superman to me. Having not seen like hardly any of the Superboy show, I still think this costume looks just as great, and yeah, like the perfect the S shield on this is the S from the spine of a Superman comic in the 90s. And it's really big. This is like the closest to just like the Alex Ross S shield on it. It's kind of funny, like when we were talking about the facial expression of different Superman S shields. This S looks more like Gerard Christopher. It's wider and sort of finer featured. And the John Haymes Newton S looks more like him. It's denser and blockier and more kind of square jawed. Yeah, but like so I prefer this one. The thong underpants are the only issue I have. Oh, and yeah, Rob makes a good point. The collar tuck in of the John Haymes Newton one is better. This one does kind of look like it's faked, snapped on there, but it's only if you're really looking for it. I have to give this one a 5. The first time I ever saw it was in a Superman homepage thread ranking different costumes, and I thought kind of like, oh, everyone is like Reeve will be the best one. And people pointed out, like, yeah, season 3 Gerard Christopher Superboy is the perfect costume. It's basically just the Reeve one, but with a comic accurate S. And I was blown away by that. And it's like, yeah, so yeah, I got to give it a 5.
Excellent. Rob, are you giving it a 5 as well, or?
I'm going to give it a 4. I think it gets really good in season 3. I think the season 2 one is not great. If we're talking about actors and the way they carry themselves and all that kind of stuff, I don't want to say anything mean about a friend of the podcast, but I'm going to give it a 4.
Excellent. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Rob. It's the trunks for me that I have to knock the mark off. It's just they're so high. It's that real late 80s, early 90s, like Baywatch, ridiculously high. Yeah. So yeah, House of Elegance for me, I think for Gerard Christopher. So we'll move on to Dean Cain pilot suit, the Lois and Clark 1993, Lois and Clark: New Adventures of Superman, the pilot. I just noted here, very traditional looking suit, darker blue than Reeve. S shield is sewn on. Is a sewn on patch as per the narrative of the story, the pilot itself. Dark red laced boots and long cape. Less of a sheen than later versions of the same suit. So I'll just bring it up here now. Now, the picture I have here isn't the absolute best one. I had one, but it was very pixelated when I actually blew it up. But it gives us an idea of we all know the Dean Cain suit, surely enough. Rob, again, do you want to talk us through this one?
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on this because you really only see it for like 5 minutes at the end of the Lois and Clark pilot, but it's very comic book accurate S. It's got that kind of velvety look to it. It's pasted on, and then the rest of the costume I think looks pretty cheap. The only thing that really connects it to the rest of Lois and Clark is the belt. It's that distinctive rectangular Lois and Clark belt. Everything else about it just sort of looks like kind of a hastily put together kind of a cosplay job, which is like not like it that feels right for this show because that's what Superman is. That's what the Superman costume is supposed to be, especially in the pilot episode. Like we literally see Martha Kent make it with a sewing machine, so it makes sense that it wouldn't be this like immaculate movie quality thing. Yeah, there is a visual disconnect between this and the costume that exists in the rest of the show. So yeah, it's fine. Like it looks fine, but yeah, it is what it is. It's not great. It's okay.
What do you think, Parker?
Yeah, like it's tricky, like you say, to judge it for like what little we see of it. I think like it makes a terrific first impression. If we do the sort of close reading of it though, like that we're doing, like there's little things that I think the collar's kind of too high, but like the high collar still looks really good on Cain in it. The sewn on S, like it is a perfect S. It's like for the rest of the series they do a much famously like kind of wonkier one. So a lot of credit for this, but it's kind of a small S shield, but I love the colors. The colors are the main thing. Like this is the debut of the Dean Cain Superman costume. It had like just like this incredible solid royal blue bodysuit that was kind of a shiny lycra kind of texture. The gold and red parts were also kind of that shiny material. Like the belt, the belt looks like it's sort of like a physical belt that's been wrapped in this like gold fabric. And I don't know, I like that. Like the colors give it a lot for me. This is a 4 for me. I would have been, if he had worn this suit for the whole series, I think I would have been totally satisfied, but I am glad they updated it a bit. And this is also, I think, it has the lace-up boots, right? It's hard to find a
Yes,
picture
it does.
of it. Yeah, I loved the lace-up full height boots in the pilot of this. That always jumped out to me as a kid, and I kind of prefer those to the darker red leather boots that he wears for the rest
The
of the
shorter
series.
ones, yeah.
Yeah, like just the material and they're brighter. It's a 4. I think it's a great great Superman suit and a great kind of first impression, but there's room for improvement. But yeah.
I assume they probably got rid of the laces just for practicality purposes of him getting in and out of it. You know, maybe it is a design feature, but I'd imagine that was really it. Rob, where would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 5?
I'm gonna have to give this a 2, guys. I'm sorry. It just looks cheap. Like, you know, it just doesn't have a high quality look to it, and it doesn't. He looks too young in it as well. Whereas I think when we move on to the next one, he actually looks like a Superman. Yeah, no, it's a 2 for me, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I thought you would have liked this one a lot more, to be honest. The S shield, I do like the design of the S shield, and obviously it does look like a patch that has literally been kind of sewn on or stuck on. But again, narratively that makes sense because that's what it is. She literally shows the patch in it. And again, the cape is very long. I'm not a huge fan of the long capes. I think I'll meet you in the middle. I think I'm going to go 3 with this one: truth, justice, and serviceable style. And it was serviceable for the sake of the pilot. I think they did. But like you said, Parker, like, if they had stuck to something more like this for the rest of the show, I don't think I would have been too disappointed in it. Now, I am a fan of what they did come up with, and we'll talk about that next here. So, so basically the suit went through a number of alterations as the series progressed. Rob, you noted here big differences throughout season 1 and small differences in the following seasons. More golden S, brighter blues, dark navy blue spandex material, high sheen, very large embroidered S shield. You mentioned earlier, Parker, that it's more of a wonky style S compared to what we see in the pilot. Ankle length, deep red cape, shorter dark red leather boots. I'm not a fan of those boots. This was designed by Judith Brewer Curtis.
Because you have no taste.
I'm going to bring it up here now. The photo I have here doesn't really, to be fair, it's the only photo I have where it's the suit on its own. It's on a mannequin. It's not on Dean, so you don't really get the full effect of it. But you can see the details of it there, I think. Parker, what do you think about this one compared to the last one?
So we do need to specify whether we're talking like which version of the Lois and Clark suit we're talking about, because there's a huge difference from for me between, and I'm not sure which order that I think it's the better one is in the later seasons.
Yes.
Yeah. So to start by talking about the middle one, I do like, I love it in the context of the show. But there are, when you just like look at photos of it, there's lots of big issues with it. The biggest one being like the collar is ridiculously low. I think you were right about it maybe being as low as the guy in It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman. But the difference though is that Dean Cain has this like great bodybuilder's chest, and you can see the top of his pecs through it, so it looks really cool. And the cape is kind of like, it looks like it's a clipped-on cape for an action figure. Like the top, like the corners of the cape are like big, sitting on his shoulders, like squares. So I'm not crazy about that. And like the shield, like the huge S shield is, because the collar's so low, the S shield is like almost down to his belly button, which isn't the most flattering.
Yeah, that's only like that in like one scene of one episode, though.
Is it? Yeah, like
It's lower than John Newton's by a good amount. Like it's right down in the middle of his torso.
But again, though, I have to stress that's literally like a scene in that one episode of like episode 2 or whatever it is, and it looks awful. It looks so bad, and they realized the mistake at the time, and they corrected it for like the very next.
I'm just looking at like promo photos of him with his hand on his hips that's doing it, but
yeah.
See, I think they may have used it in the promo photos, and they used it in some of the special effects shots, and they used those special effects shots for that entire series.
Four seasons of him flying past the same building in that costume. It drives me nuts every time. But as the suit progressed then, Parker, into say what we had in season 3 and season 4, how do you feel about that?
Well, so yeah, this is what I think of as the true Lois and Clark suit. Like the progressed version, the cape is tucked, like the collar's higher, but not too high, and the cape is tucked into it. So the thesis of like these different costumes, the Christopher Reeve one to me is like my ideal version of like the magically generated by an alien, in like by Jor-El and all that, and the S shield looks like it's just kind of somehow part of the fabric on the front. It doesn't look like somebody sewed it on, and the belt looks like this just sort of plastic printed creation. So, and like the Reeve version is the ideal version of that to me. The Lois and Clark suit is the ideal version of the Martha Kent sewed it at home version for me. it's like again, the colors, like just like this bold blue. If people want to know my ideal blue for a Superman costume, if you're a graphic design digital art person at all, open up the RGB slider and put the red to 0 and the green to 0 and the blue to 255. That's the color I want my Superman costume to be. That is basically the color of the Dean Cain costume, just pure blue. The lighting does a lot of work because it is this sort of shiny fabric. But it's not people. This is one people, Gen Xers on the internet in the 2000s, they would go on. It's like, oh, it's purple and it's sparkly, and it's not. Like it's solid blue and it's a shiny fabric. Anyway, I love maybe the main thing with this one is that all the yellow on this suit is gold. Like it is like this bright, shiny gold fabric. And that's the yellow in the S, the yellow that fabric that the belt is covered in, and that great, huge golden S shield on the blood red cape.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. The S shield is huge on the front. Like it's again, like this is an Alex Ross sized S shield. Every time he does the Dean Cain Superman shirt rip on the show, it's just again like this fire engine bursting out of his chest, the power of the gods, like that sort of thing. And I love that feeling. Anytime he's in the suit on this show, like it's just there's a hormone being released in my brain that it's like this is as good as it gets. Like that's how I always think. Like and not every version of Superman do I feel that way about. Like on the animated series, like he's just in costume so much and just like blowing stuff up, and it's boring, and it's almost more exciting whenever he's in Clark Kent mode on the animated series. But in Lois and Clark,
because Clark Kent's barely in it.
yeah, pretty much, yeah, and I love like as a whole tangent, like yeah, like the Clark Kent secret identity dynamic. That's everything to me when it comes to Superman. I'm not such a big fan of just like the stuff where Clark Kent's barely in it, and like the whole gag for me is that he's Clark Kent and he's Superman and he switches back and forth, and that's where all the fun is for me. So Lois and Clark, it used the Superman scenes sparingly compared to a lot of media and for budget and special effects reasons, but it was always just enough that Superman is really exciting whenever he's on screen, and that costume is just like so satisfying for me to look at, and the homemade factor I think is really endearing with it as opposed to looking cheap. Like Rob, you always quote like one of your favorite Superman quotes is somebody says nice costume or nice outfit, and he says thanks, my mom made it for me. I think that's in the pilot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the pilot.
That's
He's in the space shuttle. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean obviously that's a different costume, but that I think like goes through for the whole episode. And sorry, for the whole series. I'll finish off by just saying that like a lot of the sort of debates I've gotten into about different Superman costumes over the years are like, are you a purist? Do you just hate different and change and things like that? And to me, this is the counter argument to that, because this is a costume that like took some risks, did some stuff different with the red leather cowboy boots, like not even really cowboy boots, but just like the dark red leather boots. That is something that I would on paper probably not like in a lot of costumes, but I don't know. I think they look really cool here. It doesn't really make sense how he spins into costume, and there's no alien technology involved, and but whatever, it just works. The trunks are thick and long and not like the little Speedo. I love this suit. This is like in the same way Lois and Clark is the down to earth, Clark's the real identity, Superman's the hero thing compared to Chris Reeve. This is also a hardcore 5 out of 5, just in a different way than the Chris Reeve one is for me.
Excellent points. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll just echo all of that in a big bad way, and you can probably tell why me and Parker have been friends for so long, Alan. Yeah, I just think if you just land on an image of this without any context, you're not going to think it's this incredible suit at all. Like, and we see that on Twitter all the time. Like, just Gen Zers just pointing at this, going, "What? Like, what the hell was this?" But like, if you think of the context in which this exists, it's like this mother from Kansas sewed this on her sewing machine, and her son was like a football star in school and in college. Like, this looks like something a football mascot would wear. And Parker was talking about the material there. Whatever lycra or spandex material this is, the way they light it and the way it just glows, it just looks like he's bursting with like solar energy. It just looks powerful. In season 2 specifically, the yellow is very like it actually looks gold rather than yellow. And they revert back to yellow again later on for some reason, but definitely in season 2, it just looks incredible. It's just like shimmering gold in every scene. And yeah, and I think Dean Cain just looks perfect in it. Like it would look bizarre on an actor with a different physique. And that's an issue I had with the pilot one. It doesn't sit on him. It makes him look youthful for some reason. This just makes him look powerful, and it makes him look like the hero he's trying to be in that show. I keep talking about his character arc and that, and I feel like this is the hero he's trying to be when he's wearing this costume. And the little leather boots that are a different shade of red to everything else. That's just a little bit of 90s nostalgia for me. And it's the same with John Wesley Shipp's The Flash boots. Like that, they're like a darker red to the rest of the costume, and they shouldn't even be red to begin with. But that's just one of those little imperfections that I love about that suit. If I could point to one thing that I'd change, Zach pointed this out: the rectangular buckle. It's kind of got a weird Barney the dinosaur kind of velvety, sort of like if you poke it, it would be kind of spongy almost. Like it, I would probably change that. I would make that like a round buckle and make it an actual buckle. That's the only thing I'd change with this. It's perfect. I love it. It's not for everyone, but it's the kind of weird, beautiful, kooky, quirky 90s costume that we'll never ever get again. It will never look they will always try to make them look badass from now on. This is the last like truly lovable Superman costume, and I love it. Yeah.
So is this an absolute Superman for you, Rob?
Yeah, absolute perfect.
I'm of two minds about this costume, and I'll tell you why. It's because on paper, there's so much I don't like about it. I think it's too dark. I think the cape is too long. I think the S is wonky looking. I think the boots are too short. It's just, if you described this to me, or like this image, which is just this suit on a mannequin, I don't like the look of this. I absolutely love this suit. Like I think this is like, it looks phenomenal on Dean Cain as the series. I'm talking about the suit now from say season 2, 3, 4. It really just, like you said, Parker, when he tears open his shirt and you see that giant S, and he's there. There's so many scenes where he's just standing there with his arms folded and his biceps are bursting through the spandex and stuff, and the sheen on it. I just think it's phenomenal. If you ask me what I don't like in Superman suits, though, this is what always makes me kind of, it makes me laugh about this suit, is there's a lot of stuff on this that on paper I don't like. But when you bring it all together and you put Dean Cain in it and you film it the way they did on the show, I think it looks great. So yeah, I have to agree with you guys. I think it's a 5 out of 5.
And this is an important point to make. The Superboy costumes are technically a lot better looking than this, but they don't look as good when they're filmed as this does. I don't think, like, they just don't look as dynamic when they're moving. They just look like pajamas, whereas this really just looks powerful and graceful and dynamic, even though it's so strange looking on paper, which is just that's so interesting to me. And it just speaks to how live action is a different medium, and you have to make considerations for what things look like and how they're going to light and all that stuff. And top marks, love it.
5 out of 5 all around.
Before we move on, since I see the Excel sheet scrolling down, I want to grab the mic back to say other stuff that I meant to say about this suit, like when we were talking like 5 suits back. This also, the shining quality of the fabric of this is, I think, the most romantic Superman costume.
Ooh.
Like, I think so much of the concept of the Lois and Clark, the whole Lois and Clark Superman universe, is that it's like this romance, this 90s romance novel, Superman, and the music, the Superman theme on that show is very knight in shining armor. Whenever Superman arrives, it's this romantic hero with a red cape on a white horse, or a golden horse kind of arriving. And the long kind of red fabric of the cape. This is a very 90s thing as well, and you get steel with the red cape and all that as well. But it's like this is the cape that a knight would wear. This thick red velvet cape that goes down past his boots, and with the big gold S like a flag, a standard kind of on it. And it's another reason I love the suit and that I feel like it's the right suit for the show and for the time and just for the Dean Cain version of the character.
I could see that.
Yeah, excellent point. So we're not going to travel too far into the future. We're going to move to another Dean Cain suit. It's the black suit from the new Krypton arc, the end of season 3. Black skin tight spandex with large dark blue S shield, blue cuffs and a black belt. So Rob, in relation to this suit, we only see it in 2 episodes, I think, is it?
Yeah, if that, yeah. So you see it at the end of like
season 3.
Yeah, it's like you see it at the end of like a cliffhanger. I think it's at the top of season 4. You first see it. You see it at the end of a cliffhanger, and then you see it for the majority of the next episode. Yeah.
Obviously, heavily inspired by the Return of Superman in the comics, the black suit with the silver shield. They obviously went with blue here. What do you think about this suit?
Yeah, I love it. I love that we got like at least one truly alternate Superman costume in the show, and it's the first time we ever got like a black suit or anything like it, and the little blue tips on the boots, just lovely.
Oh yeah,
everything about it is just lovely. It's so nice that it exists. Don't have a huge amount to say about it, but again, it's just like Dean Cain looks great in this. Like, God bless him. The big stupid square belt buckle, don't know what that's about, but like, yeah, no, I haven't really got much to say about this except that I'm just really, really glad it exists, and it just a lovely bit of history to have. So great that it's there.
The blue S almost looks bigger than the normal S. Maybe it's not, but it almost does look bigger. Parker, what do you think of the Dean Cain black suit?
For context, like, I'm not generally a fan of like variant Superman suits. Rob and I have always talked about this. Like, I was, since Rob has known me, I've gone on and on about how frustrating it was as a kid when I would just want like your perfect classic Superman costume action figures, and all you can find is like the neon dark heatwave Superman one or the green digital nomad Superman or whatever, right? And so it took me a long time to kind of warm up to this. So I want to rate this one in terms of it as an adaptation of the the Resurrection suit from the comics, like the black one with the silver S. So as an adaptation of that, I don't think it's great. Like, I think changing the S and the cuffs from silver to blue was the wrong choice. It just kind of makes it look cheap. I think if those elements of it were silver, like the comics, that would be awesome. Especially if they like filled in the black part, like the S shield on this, it's the red parts are blue and the yellow parts are black. And if the whole thing had been silver, that would have been really cool. But yeah, I do really like the little blue tips on the boots. I prefer this in terms of a capeless Superman suit. I think this looks cooler than when it's just the regular suit with no cape, which is a look I've never been a fan of. But like, so I don't know. As an adaptation of the Resurrection suit, I guess a 3. It's like, I don't know, like a 3. It's really cool though that they actually did that on the show. At the time, like variant suits and little things like that from the comics, like, were just not done. We did 4 Christopher Reeve Superman movies with it's the same costume throughout. This is the only variant suit that he wears throughout the whole series. So it's awesome they did that, and respect for that. The execution's okay, but yeah, it's a 3.
Why do you guys think that they didn't go with the silver?
I'd say they wanted a more vibrant, kind of bright colors to match the color palette of the rest of the episode. Yeah, that like silver is kind of a cold color, and this was such a warm, bouncy, bright, fun, campy storyline. So I'd say that's why they did it.
What are you giving this one, Rob?
I'm going to give this a 3 as well. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's nice that it's there, and it's just fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have nothing else to add, guys. Truth, justice, and serviceable style. 3 out of 5 for the Dean Cain suit. So we're going to move on now to another suit. It's the Nicolas Cage photo test, air quote, classic suit from Superman Lives.
Now, but crucially, This suit appeared in The Flash. It appeared
did.
in the actual released movie, The Flash. This counts as an official Superman costume.
The Flash 2024, right? Or
Yes,
2023.
yes.
You know it, Rob. It's the one that looks most like the classic Superman suit. So I just described it as plastic molded bodysuit, almost armor quality hammock style trunks. Is that fair?
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
Large, more traditional S shield with
Look at that swinging cock.
large, more traditional S shield with yellow background and belt. Heavy cape. I just assumed it was Sylvian Desperate who designed this too. Like he was the costume designer for the movie. So
Sylvian Desperates sound like a group of refugees from like a fake DC Comics country. Like, oh, Cordo Maltese has now been invaded by a group of Sylvian Desperates who have desperately left their land after. Anyway, you get the idea.
Sylvian, come on the show. Yeah, we'd love to have you. Parker, talk to me about this Superman suit. When did you first become familiar with this? Do you remember it kind of being shown back at the time or anything like that?
In the 90s, my dad would give me daily updates on the genesis of this movie, like when it was happening. We were all kind of worried about it. In terms of like we loved the Tim Burton Batman movies. My dad and I both, like, they're the equivalent of the Christopher Reeve stuff. But we were not sure that Tim Burton doing Superman would work at all. We were really wary of a dark Superman. As a little kid, like this has come up between Rob and I a million times over the years. Like, it was frustrating to be kids, or for me, it was frustrating to be a kid in the 90s when in the comic, anytime I picked up a Superman comic for like years there, it's like, yeah, you know what? There's Superboy in this leather jacket with an earring, and there's this robot guy, and I hope you don't like the regular Superman too much, kid, because you know what? He's dead. He's dead is what he is. And maybe he'll come back, but it's never really him. It's some imposter or something, or he's got the long hair. I mean, it was great when he came back with the long hair and the mullet, but it was almost just kind of a like too good to be true, like burned kind of thing. It's like, is this really him? I don't know. Anyway, so we were wary of a death or of, yeah, like a Nick Cage, Tim Burton, the Superman movie, or Death of Superman, or whatever it was supposed to be. All that said, I do not remember ever seeing a photo of this costume until certainly within like the last 10 years at most, maybe the last 5. Whenever the documentary footage, when was the documentary, like?
Yeah, it would have been around then, about 2015, I'd say. Yeah, whatever happened to Superman Lives. Yeah.
So then whenever they were doing the GoFundMe or the crowdfunding for the Death and Life of Superman Lives, What Happened, or whatever it's called, that's when I first saw the pictures. Yeah, all that said, I think this costume is terrific. I think it's definitely the Superman equivalent of the 90s Batman costumes that we never saw. The fact that it's this molded rubber muscle armor, that could be a disaster, but it's just done really well. I like what makes it work, I think, is the colors. It's just like, it's a bright primary color red. Like, this is the like red 255 on the RGB scale, with the other two set to 0. So it's pure blood red, bright plastic yellow, and the blue's a bit darker. The blue on this costume to me, so are ice cream trucks a thing in Ireland?
Yes.
Like soft serve ice cream?
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Yeah, it's not just the potato man, as we say. Yeah, no. So soft serve ice cream.
Yeah, well, we don't have maple syrup dispensaries here in Ireland, however.
I think that is a real thing in Canada, like maple sugar, maple candy store. Or I also wasn't sure, Alan, if that was more of a police thing. Like, it's like, no, you want an ice cream cone in Ireland, you have to ask a policeman for some reason. So the reason I bring that up is that when you get the soft serve there, you know how you can get the dips for it. Like, it's like you want the chocolate, raspberry, whatever dip. So like one of them here, like blueberry dip for the soft serve cones. That's what this costume looks like to me. That dark, shiny, like iridescent blue chocolatey coating. This costume always kind of makes me hungry for that reason, looking at it, because that's what the blue shell of this costume looks like to me. The belt has some kind of ornate alien-looking design, but it's pretty cool in a 90s way. The cod piece reminds me sort of the George Clooney era Batman ice costumes when he's got the silver codpiece. Like there's very little going on either side of the groin, but the groin is just this kind of red shell. It's I don't know. I'm not crazy about the shape of it, but overall, like this Superman costume is, I think, a treat to look at. And it would have been great in a movie if they had made like that mythical missing piece '90s blockbuster Superman movie, and this was the costume. I think it would have been awesome. Same way like the Batman Forever suit is. So yeah.
Yeah, again, echo all of that. Like you said it there at the end there, Parker. Batman Forever. Like this is the Panther suit equivalent for Superman for me. Like Val Kilmer's suit at the start of Batman Forever is pitch perfect. It's one of the best Batman suits ever. Nipples and all, codpiece and all. It is a thing of absolute beauty, and I think this is as well. I think. It is very much of its time. The codpiece, the molded kind of armor look to it, and all that kind of stuff. But I think it is beautiful to look at, and this is a costume test photo taken on a feckin' Polaroid at the time. Imagine this in a movie. It would be spectacular. And like the yellow is blinding. It's actually blinding. It looks like the sun.
Looks like Dick Tracy's hat.
Dick Tracy's hat. The belt. It's like a curved belt, which I'm very partial to, and it has this kind of like there's kind of shapes coming out of the sides of the buckle. So it does look like the traditional Superman belt, but they've updated it. They've upgraded it. Everything about this, I know what you're going to say, Alan. You want it to be a skin tight fabric. You want it to be something you can wear under the costume. I get all of that, right? I get all that, but I just think as a piece of just expressionist art, in a 1990s motherfucking movie, I just think this would have been beautiful. And for all the years that people made fun of Nicolas Cage, oh, he doesn't look like Superman, oh, miscast, whatever. Shut up, boring. If you look at this photo, you look at this man's piercing eyes and his mulleted head staring at you in this costume with his hands by his sides. He absolutely looks like the Man of Steel in this photograph. And I mourn every single day that we didn't get this movie. I'll say it right now. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I much, much, much prefer this costume to the Superman Returns costume. Like this is drastically better Superman costume than the one we got in 2006. And yeah, I absolutely love this.
Fuck you guys, because I thought I was coming in here with a hot take and like, oh, I actually really like this, but apparently not. Look, again, it goes against everything that on paper I like. I love the spandex. I love the fact that you can wear it under a suit and stuff. But I was there, man. I was there in the 90s. I was fucking 12, 11 when Batman Forever came out. 13 when Batman and Robin came out. I would have been about 13 or 14 when this film came out if it had been made. And like everything had to be to the extreme. And I remember this suit I think it looks great, to be honest. I'm not a fan of the codpiece. I'll put that out there. I don't like the codpiece. If there was one thing I would change, I would probably just get rid of the trunks altogether on this suit. But saying that, this fits right into a Tim Burton aesthetic. I think, you could see this Nicolas Cage Superman rocking up in a direct sequel of Val Kilmer to Batman Forever. Yeah, it is of its time. There's no getting away from that. It's 30 years ago. This was what was in at the time. This is what everybody expected after the Batman movies came out. And I don't really have any complaints about this. Like you said, Rob, the yellow is very vibrant. It just punches you right in the face. The S looks great. There's too many, there's too many built-in abs and muscles and all that kind of stuff. And we could talk about that all day. Superman doesn't need that. But at the end of the day, yeah, I think for a 90s movie Superman, I think this looks great. I can't really fault it. So Rob, what do you give it out of 5?
6.
And Parker?
So I'm going to give it a 5 as well. Like, I think context is important for all of these. Like you said, Alan, like it's really of its time.
Yeah.
With all these long running franchise characters, like I think a take that can get under discussed at times is what's the right adaptation and philosophy and costume for its time, right? And like the Reeves suit, it's seen as the perfect timeless one, but it is a really 70s suit. It's a very like bright, campy spandex sort of thing. And the George Reeves suit is that more sort of football player mascot sweater kind of look. And like with this, it's it's the cost. If they made that Superman movie in the 90s and we're going with the 90s ethos, this is, I think, the best possible version of that. It's that of its time thing executed correctly. Like we didn't even discuss, I think, in other pictures, it looks like the cape. You can see kind of under his arm here. The cape is like this shiny red plastic. So very much that alien printed thing. Other pictures of it, the famous one where Cage has his fist right up at the camera, you can see some like detail on the S shield there. Like it's just mouth watering. So yeah, this is a 5 in the same way that the Batman Forever costume's a 5.
Perfect. I would give it a 4 because of the cod piece. I really don't like the cod piece, but to be fair, we'll put it down. Absolute Superman. 5 out of 5 for the Nick Cage air quote classic suit. So the next one is just for fun, guys. The Joey Tribbiani Superman suit from Friends, the one with the holiday armadillo. It's a basic Rubies Superman Halloween costume. Sorry, I'll bring it up here. Halloween costume, classic store-bought costume, bright colours, padded muscles, printed S-shield, polyester cape, one-piece bodysuit with boot covers. I'll tell you, I have a small story about this actual suit. I owned this suit.
Oh, wow.
This costume, this exact one. I bought it. I worked in a bar in the early 2000s called The Shanty, and they had a superhero costume night. I still have the ticket that I bought because they had a picture printed of Christopher Reeve and Val Kilmer on the front of it, and I was like, I never see that. I have it upstairs. So I bought a Superman costume. This is the exact one I got. And for years and years and years, I didn't know where it was. And I found it like maybe around 2015, 2016 in my parents' attic. And it had gone a bit musty, but the cape was still perfect. So I cleaned the cape. I brought it to London Film and Comic Con with me. And I actually have it framed on my wall here now because I got it signed by Sarah Douglas, Terrence Stamp, Michael Rosenbaum, and Dean Cain, and I have it. It's right there. It's the exact and Matt LeBlanc. It's the exact same cape framed here.
I didn't realize that's what that cape came from. That's so lovely. That's great.
Yeah, that's the exact same one. So just look quickly, guys. Any thoughts on this?
I don't like fake muscles on Superman. I think that's okay for Batman because his. Or at least movie Batman costumes, like they're supposed to be kind of molded armor muscles or whatever. But Superman, you don't want to see fake muscles, and it just, I don't know. It's so cool that this happened in Friends and all that, but yeah, don't love it.
There's no back on the suit. It's just kind of you tie it with cords or whatever. It's a good point though, Rob. It's an issue I have with children's costumes at the moment. Whenever my daughter goes into we have a kind of department store chain over here called Dunn Stores. Whenever she goes in and they have like these cheap Superman, Spider-Man costumes. When I was a kid, back in the 80s and 90s, they were just normal costumes like you'd put on. Now they're all muscle suits, and I hate that. Parker, do you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, sure. This moment in the series was always the light. Like I have way too much to say about this. I'll boil it down to like a thing I've cited to Rob over the years was that like different characters have kind of gone through this, but certainly there was a gulf of years there where there was like no live action Superman, like a long 10 solid years there almost, or I guess 9 years between the end of Lois and Clark and Superman Returns hitting theaters, right? And Smallville was huge then, but obviously no costumes on that. During that span of time, any glimpse of any live action Superman costumery in any media at all, I would sit bolt upright. A whole like the deepest, truest part of my soul would light up like the red sun of Krypton, like the yellow sun of Earth. Anyway, like this, and my dad, same sort of thing. Like if we were in the room and any little shred of Superman, anything popped up, we would suddenly like jump up. And anyway, and that goes for like the John Cleese bicycle repairman costume in Monty Python, which we should really be discussing. Uh, that like or Sloth in the Goonies, Richard Donner's The
Yes.
Goonies.
Yeah.
He serves up and she's got the super. Yeah, like that feeling, like it's just like being in touch with a live wire. So like we were huge friends. Like my household watched Friends religiously, but we only got into it in syndication, like about 5 years after it was airing live. So it was early 2000s when we saw this episode for the first time. And Joey Tribbiani bursting into that apartment in this like classic red, yellow, and blue, bright as day Superman costume, like was super exciting and hilarious. Matt LeBlanc looks great in it. Obviously, like he is a classic, like square-jawed, black-haired Superman looking guy. And so yeah, just super fun. It's very similar to the childhood Superman costume I had one made by my grandmother, hand sewed, like in like pale blue, cotton and all that. And then we had me and my sister each had our own store bought one that was very much like this, except without the fake muscles. So yeah, I agree with Rob. The fake muscles on these things are always silly, especially because Matt LeBlanc was actually in pretty good shape. But like I don't know how you rate this. It's an honorary like 5 out of 5 just because of how fucking awesome it is that they had Joey in the Superman costume on Friends.
We'll just give it an honorary absolute Superman 5 out of 5. That's just a fun sidebar. So superfans, this concludes the first installment of our live action Super Suits ranking journey. Please stay tuned for part 2, which will drop in the very near future. In the meantime, if you want to send us your thoughts, opinions on any of the live action 20th century Superman suits we discussed in this episode, please do so by sending us an email or voice note to allstarsuperpod@gmail.com. We're also available on Facebook and Instagram at allstarsuperfan and on X at allstarsuperpod. Don't forget to subscribe on whatever podcasting platform you use to listen to the show, and remember, we're now also available on YouTube. And as always, until next time, stay safe, stay super, and stay stylish out there.